What's going on? Got some good news, bad news, got some weird news, got a little bit of everything. So, I'll be honest, I'm exhausted. Vaughn, I would love to have you on the stream. Let me set up a Discord voice channel for you at some point. We'll do that like next week. Matt, what's going on, dude? Remind me of that, Vaughn. I'll definitely do. So we have news, and then I thought I'd do a segment where we'll talk about just the lightweight division, and we'll go through like each fighter and kind of have a little like sense. Throw some 2 cents in there for each one of them, because we basically have this crazy stretch of just nonstop lightweight fighters, which is pretty amazing. Like, I want to complain, but it's awesome. Because the fights are actually pretty decent, too. So let's start off. Maybe I'll do it reverse order. No, I'll just do a regular order. You got to talk about, so Tank won, right? And of course, I agree, Matt. I absolutely agree. Tank wins. First thing that happens, of course, everyone starts tweeting at him. Because Tank broke his hand. He didn't look impressive at certain moments. Bedford, what's going on? I think the thing that it's interesting here is Regis Prograis being like, better stay at 135. And he is. He gave up his regular WBA title at 140, which I think is smart. Tank doesn't need to be up. What's even more interesting is Ryan Garcia. Ryan over here, of course, he's got to tweet at Tank. Now, look, I understand this. Ryan wants to get back in the game. But we got to see what happens, because Ryan hasn't fought in an entire year. He lost an entire year of fighting. It was supposed to be the mandatory for WBA title. Didn't. So so JoJo stepped in in his place, and then eventually, obviously, won. So, I wonder if that's autocorrect, Shrek. So Ryan obviously is trying to chirp at Tank. Now, obviously, Oscar De La Hoya was saying the same stuff. Had to talk. Oscar had to talk at him. But everyone's kind of talking to Tank now, obviously, because he just won, and it wasn't the most convincing win that he could have had. But I did want to show you guys a little bit more behind. Then let's look at some of the numbers for Tank versus Cruz. Now, I know a lot of people felt like Cruz won the fight. I think you could make a case that Tank won by a little bit, Cruz possibly won by a little bit, or it was a draw. It's not a Cruz destroyed Tank or Tank destroyed Cruz. It's like we're talking very, very close here. If you look at the punch stats, now I as you guys know, I'm not the biggest guy that's like punch stats say everything, but let's just take a quick peek at them. If you go to the top row for total punches landed and you go round by round, the biggest thing I noticed, especially is in the 12th round, which a lot of people felt like Tank was running around. He was, but he doubled the punches of Cruz. So it's like, okay, but you can literally see in this punch stats, which is really interesting. Tank kind of had a slow start. He picked it up a little bit. And then you can see like 6th round, really good round. 5th, 6th, 7th, good round. And then the 8th round dropped. 9th did really well. 10th did really well. And it's interesting when you look at it overall. It was not as crazy as some people felt for Cruz. Exactly, Matt. Exactly. So this kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, and it does make it seem like this was an incredibly close fight, just looking at just pure stats. So, of course, everyone had their opinion on Tank. It was visibly obvious that he hurt his hand. Like, it was pretty obvious. Someone in chat brought it up, and I wasn't even really paying attention to it. And it was like, hey, he's not throwing straight left hands anymore. It's like, holy cow, no, you're right. I didn't even notice it. And he was just using right hooks for a huge portion of the fight. Like, oh man, no, you're right. He is not using his left. Then after the fight, when he got his hand out of his glove, it looked pretty obvious. So we'll do a little bit more deep dive on Tank when we go through the lightweight boxers and have a little, little powwow about them. Staying at lightweight though. So Tio, I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently he suffered with pneumonia going into it. Apparently, doctor said he should have died. That he's shocked that that Tio is alive and that he didn't die during the fight. All this stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is total bullshit. And I'll show you why. Because I don't just come here to say that kind of thing without bringing receipts. If you look at it, there's something that really is a problem with this, making this kind of accusation. And that is, if you go to some of these basic, really basic, it's not hard to find this stuff. Here's the WBA and their medical and safety guideline. Okay? I'm going to blow this up a little bit. Okay? Let's take a little peek at what these guidelines say. Okay? Because if you look at these guys, this is going to tell you everything. Now, obviously, there's some language here about being at certain ages and stuff like that, right? But it goes through exactly what they look at. And look at what we have right here. Pneumonia being one of the number one things that they look for before a fight. Now, on top of that, Tio has openly talked about having asthma. So you have asthma, you have pneumonia, you're going to show signs, and a doctor is not going to let you fight. This is page 1. This is article 1. And it keeps on going. Tells you everything that they do, they look for. Okay? It is literally on the first page. And so I'm going to call some BS on that. Especially if you're dealing with someone that has a respiratory issue that's well known, like asthma. I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to call BS on this. So this whole, we got a doctor to say that Tio was, then let's just go beyond that. Let's say he did have it. Let's just say he did. I like the sound of doctor. Let's say he did, okay? So let's say either A, he didn't know, which would be hard. B, he did know, but he thought this was a cakewalk fight, right? And so that means he kind of brushed it off and the doctor allowed him to fight. Let's just say that's the case. Then I'm going to say the same thing that I said and have said 100 times on stream. That if you go into a fight with a known injury and a known issue and you lose, you can't fall back on that because it shows that you didn't respect your opponent enough to go in there fully healthy or healthy enough. Lomachenko had a shoulder injury. He went into the Lopez fight, and afterwards, when he says, I had to have shoulder surgery. My shoulder's hurting. I have issues with my shoulder. I said, even as a Lomachenko fan, that's your own damn fault for being in the ring and fighting with an injury that is literally that severe. So, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how you twist it. Either you went in there knowing that you had it, which you're going to know you have this. This isn't a, oh, it snuck up on me kind of thing. Like it's a cold or something. You know you have this. So you went in the ring knowing you have this and you decide to fight anyways. That's on you. And on top of that, you have no rematch clause. That's really on you. So, I don't really feel that bad for you. I just don't. You could have postponed it. I know. Jerry postponed it a million times. But still. So we're going to go, speaking of Lomachenko. This is a great thing. We've already talked about it a little bit. I'm going to touch on it really quick. This idea of Loma fighting Shakur Stevenson, I'm very intrigued by, because it's the reason I like this is, one, Shakur Stevenson's been fighting at 130. That means he wants to go up. Oh, kid, what's going on? It means that Shakur Stevenson wants to go up. And I think he'd be pretty decent at lightweight. So that's interesting. And the idea of him and Loma is very interesting. Shakur Stevenson looked really good against Jamel Herring. Like, really good. And he has very fast hands. I'd be curious to see how this would all play out. He's not the hardest hitting guy, but he's got really good hand speed. And he's technically very sound. So this was a very interesting fight if it does. Just wanted to touch on it. Let's see what happens. I think, honestly, Loma would not be as interested in fighting Shakur Stevenson as he is Kambosos, Kevin Haney, someone that has a belt. So let's go up in weight class. And like I said, then we'll go back and talk about lightweight. This one, actually, speaking of lightweight, though, in general, Mikey Garcia is talking about coming back down to 135. I'm kind of interested in it, but I'm not. Like, I like Mikey, but Mikey, you lost brutally. And that doesn't mean you're going to get a title shot. So, I don't think it's going to happen. I agree, Matt. I like Mikey, yeah, go home, you're drunk, Mike. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You lost, and I mean this in no disrespect, but you lost to a complete no-name no one had ever heard of. You've been out of the ring for so long. You can blame ring rust, but you cherry-picked and it went wrong. So, you don't deserve a title shot from either one of these guys. Wait your turn. Go back to the back of the line. Earn the right to get that kind of fight. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, Mike. Sorry. I like you, but, as soon as you decide to go up in weight class, I was like, wow, this is really impressive. And then you kind of lost and then just took a ton of time off. Like, okay. You don't want to play ball anymore? That's fine. This one, Garcia versus Garcia. It won't happen, but I think it'd actually be a good fight. Because, like, Ryan Garcia could take that mantle. I don't know how much it'd take, like, Mikey's fans. Because Mikey has a really good, dedicated fan base. It would be a good idea, though. I like where your head's at. Our favorite boxer, Boo Boo's talking about dropping the belt, which I am a little surprised by because he has a mandatory. And I'm curious why he thinks that Canelo's going to just have to be forced to fight him. Like, he's not going to. He's going to find a way around it if he doesn't want to. It's just, He'll say, okay, well then I'm going to drop all my belts at super middle, and I'm just going to go up to light heavyweight. I don't care about these belts anymore. So I see what Boo Boo's trying to chase the money. It makes sense. He wants a big fight. I'm surprised he's not trying to press a little bit more he tried a lot for Charlo, and it's just not happening now that he's got this new mandatory. But there's no reason he can't find some step aside money. You know? Like, there's no reason that Boo Boo can't find. You're telling me Eddie Hearn can't find any step aside money so that Charlo and Boo Boo can fight. I mean, they're already talking about serious step aside money for other big fights. I'm just surprised by this. And yeah, I would love to see if Boo Boo can't get Canelo, fight Plant, fight Billy Joe Saunders. You're supposed to fight Billy Joe Saunders, and then, nasal spray incident. So, there's still money to be made at super middleweight. There's still money to be made at middleweight. Why not fight Jaime Munguia? Like, why not try to go after Triple G? Like, there's still fights to be made. So I'm just kind of surprised that he's like, I'm gonna drop the belt I have to go up. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because it's not like Canelo's gonna give you a shot. I think he'd probably take on Benavidez before you. Actually, I don't know if he'd take on Benavidez. It does raise the question, like, what are you bringing to the table? You don't even have a belt anymore. If you don't even have a belt, there's really no reason for him to, unless you're a mandatory. I just don't see it happening. To me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So that rumor, we'll see what happens there. Now, a couple other guys talk about, not the biggest fan of him, but I think we need to talk about this weight class in general, which is light heavyweight. Light heavyweight really needs something, because it's just kind of sitting there with champions that aren't fighting that regular. I know that Beterbiev is fighting like literally this week, but there's just not a lot going on there. Bivol's fairly inactive. It's just like, it's screaming for someone to kind of take the reins here. The one reason I don't believe Anthony Yarde at all in this statement is because he got destroyed by Kovalev. A washed up, drunken Kovalev crushed him, which is very fitting for his name. So I don't know why Anthony Yarde physically looks huge. He looks massive for the weight class, but I don't see what he really thinks he can do. Oh yeah, tall kid. Like, there's a collection of really solid guys there. I don't know why Yarde feels like he can just like disrupt this whole thing. I think it's like kind of one of those weight classes that's a little bit sleepy right now. Like, it's not the most exciting weight class. It should be. It should be way more exciting. Because, as Tall Kid just pointed out, the names there are all solid names. Smith would be perfect to fight against Yarde. Just do it at the O2 Arena. It's not a bad. It wouldn't be a bad idea to make that fight. But, I think in general for Yarde, he has a lot of fundamentals that are going to leave him vulnerable. When does Beterbiev fight? Let me double check really quick for you. I believe it's this week. Yeah, it's the 17th. 17th, so it's like next week. It's next Friday. We'll be live during that. You didn't miss anything, Shrek. So, we went over Tank, his win with Cruz. We talked a little bit about lightweights, some people tweeting at Tank. And then you basically came in pretty much after that. So, other than that, moving up in weight. I'm surprised that this is still the narrative that's going on for Canelo, but I think it's kind of obvious why it is. So, it looks like Akubu is going to have his fight in January. And then Eddie wants to have the fight in like, is 135 the hottest division? Yes, I would say it's up there. It's like welterweight, lightweight, heavyweight are like kind of the sparkling stars right now in terms of weight. Bantamweight has some interesting fights too, but I feel like lightweight is a little bit like top heavy. Like there's it's a little bit top heavy right now. Welterweight's a little bit more in flux because there's some like real contenders there. 154, 160, okay. Doesn't have the same star power, I would say. You know, Triple G's old, Charlo, you know. There's a couple good fights there, but to me, it's like welterweight's really interesting. Just because of some of the real young contenders there for me that are like, they're must-watch TV. Like, Boots Ennis is must-watch TV. Virgil Ortiz is must-watch TV. Like, you can't miss those fights. So, I think they're I mean, right now, in general, boxing has very few categories that are terrible. So, some of the really like straw weight and stuff like that probably are not as interesting. But this tells me that like they want to have the fight in like May-ish time. That tells me that this is what Canelo wants. He's picked his target. That's what he wants. It's exactly, and there's no catch weight. This is like, I'm gonna bulk up. I can bulk up and make the weight. And that's kind of interesting to me. It's all good. So I really want to see. I want to see what Canelo's going to look like. I think he's obviously found where he wants to be though in terms of for his next belt that he really wants. It's pretty obvious this is what he wants. And look, it's a good chance. It's a good chance for him to get another weight class, another belt. It is going to be criticized by some that he's cherry picking. And yeah, of course he is to it. I think he finds where there's some weakness in a weight class and he exploits it. Like he did to Kovalev. Kovalev didn't have a lot of time to train, get ready for the next fight, but he took the money. So what are you going to do? He goes for Usyk. That would be a bad idea. But Bridgerweight, someone brought up Bridgerweight as like kind of a joke because it is a joke. But I could see him actually legit taking that belt. Like, I absolutely think that, like, because he's just got to be over 200 pounds. And I actually think Canelo would not put that past him. I would not put that past him. Because the WBC, their golden boy is literally Canelo. Like, they love Canelo so much that they're willing to bend over backwards for. I could see it happening. I could see it. It's not like it's the it's one of the weakest weight classes by far. It's not even a real weight class. So, yeah, but yeah, is it 190? I thought, because that's cruiser then. Like, you'd be technically cruiserweight at that. I thought it was 200 to 224. But regardless, it's like, it's unbelievable that we might get Canelo to try to do another weight class. Towering Inferno beat Garcia 118 to 111. I know. Oh my God. That was brutal. That was a brutal one. But I don't even know who that is. Oh, kid. I thought I'd throw this in now that we're getting up by heavyweight. This isn't like the fight that like the strong guy. Oh, was he like the mountain or whatever? Gotcha. So I know some of you guys like Zhang. Bergovich versus Zhang. I kind of, in terms of freak show, I have a freak show fight. You know, you got Zhang out there who honestly just hasn't done much, but you know, and you got Hergovich who hasn't really done much. Like, just throw them in the ring together. Kind of love it. You know? I've seen, yeah, the mountain dude, he is huge. All 5 Zhang fans love it. Yeah. And all the billion people in China love it. So that's kind of a fun, I don't know. I thought, you know, low key kind of somewhat fun. Now the main topic that I think is oh, what's going on, Dana? Oh, Dana, I don't even know how Canelo could get back down to 150 right now. So finally, Dillian Whyte is looking like he's gonna get his title shot. It's only taken him, what, like 3 years almost? It's only taken him like 1,000 days or something like to get a title shot. So, number one, I think that Dillian Whyte deserves a title shot. He really does. The only thing that's holding this fight up from being like confirmed, done deal, let's do it, is the Usyk fight. And it's interesting because like at first there was kind of talk about like, oh, step aside money for AJ. So that way Fury and Usyk can get in the ring. I was like, there's no way Eddie Hearn's going to allow that to happen. And since then, it's been like, there's been more talk about it and more talk about it. And there's more talk about it. And it's that kind of classic saying like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Which tells me there's some actual negotiation going on. Like there's actual conversation going on. Behind the scenes, if you ask me. Like, which makes this possibility, I mean, poor Dillian Whyte's going to have to wait at least another year. If I'm him, I'll try to get it. If that does happen, let's say Usyk and Fury do fight. They have a probably 2-fight contract. My opinion is that if I'm Dillian Whyte, I'm going after, I mean, the number one like guy that I'd go after is Deontay Wilder would be a good one. I'd go after AJ maybe. Like go after someone big and just like have a good time. Don't go fight some 40-year-old man like you always do. Go after someone. It's very interesting the amount of Dillian Whyte fans are really interesting. They have a lot of faith in Dillian Whyte. They believe in him wholeheartedly. There is nothing about him that they don't think that he can. They just don't see any of the blind spots. It's like all the problems that could happen with Dillian Whyte. They just like either they don't see it, they don't come to terms with it, I don't know, but they are interesting individuals. Lucky for you, Shrek, most likely because Top Rank is going to be doing the card for Lomachenko. So it's looking like Loma is probably, they're either going to try to do it before or after the main event for UFC 269. They're going to try to play with that time slot because they're well aware that they stacked it on top of a major UFC fight. So I would not be surprised if they stagger it. We've seen it before. Canelo had to wait. Him and Kovalev waited till the end of a UFC main event to have their fight. It happens. So I would not be surprised. So in the end, Dillian Whyte fights Tyson Fury. I'm going to be picking Tyson Fury. That's a good question. I can tell you right now. I think the Lomachenko fight is going to be free on ESPN Plus. It'll be on ESPN Plus most likely, not totally free. But they'll definitely have it queued up, I believe. So there's a pay-per-view for UFC 269. So you got to pay pay-per-view for that, which is not a bad buyout, honestly. Most of the major UFC events are pretty reasonable. Lomachenko is going to be ESPN Plus, I believe. They will not show me past Top Rank. Let's see if they'll actually show me. It looks like I believe they are going to have that main card be on ESPN. I don't see any pay-per-view listed by. So, you have ESPN Plus. You know, it's a good way to swap back and forth. The thing that is nice with having them kind of offset a little bit is that you can watch the UFC and then switch over to the Lomachenko, because there's not going to be a crazy undercard there, and then switch back to MMA. Kind of nice. So, like people smaller than him. Love that talk. Okay. Time to do fight prediction time. Now that we're speaking of Lomachenko and Comey. So we'll do that really quick. Set up fun facts and statistics. Okay. Oh, I'm absolutely root. I always root. I don't think there'll be a time where I don't root. Okay. So Lomachenko versus Comey. Let's talk about this matchup. This is actually a really solid fight. Very solid fight. So looking at them side by side, Richard Comey, if you don't know, is a former champion. Lost to Tio. He lost his belt. Only time he's been knocked out. Lomachenko, obviously, former unified champion, also lost to Tio, lost his belts. So this is kind of a nice fight. Loma has been trying to get back to being the number one mandatory for everything. And so he's basically going around and fighting the best fighters that he can, for the most part, since the loss to Lopez, which I like. Looking at him side by side, in terms of age, very similar in age. Pretty close. And this is one of the few times that, there's someone in the ring across from Loma that's older than him, other than probably the Linares fight in particular. Height-wise, I did some secondary research on the height. I saw one thing say that Comey was 5'8". This says he's 5'9". This says that Loma is 5'6". I tend to believe probably he's closer to that. I saw another site that said that he's 5'7". Doesn't matter. In general, there's about a 2 to 3 inch height difference, which really doesn't matter considering that Lomachenko just fought, Yoshi before this fight, and he was considerably taller. Looking at reach, this is the biggest difference in this fight, really. This is going to be something that's going to be, you'd think would be critical, but I'll tell you why it's probably not going. Stance-wise, obviously Lomachenko is southpaw. He's technically right-handed. He fights southpaw. You can switch it. In terms of KO percentages, these percentages aren't accurate on this website. I saw that Richard Comey had about an 81% KO percentage, and Loma has about a 63% KO percentage. So there's a good chance someone could get knocked out or stopped in this fight. Both of them have great background and have fought some good opponents. I love Donaire. Love Donaire. I'm sorry, Donaire, I will not be watching your fight. There's too much good going on. So, with these two guys, who would I kind of lean towards? What the game plan would be for either one of them? If I'm Richard Comey, you have a really tall task in front of you because it's really hard to deal with Lomachenko. The people have done well. Tio did pretty well, but that was Loma not throwing. He just didn't throw a lot. He didn't throw a lot of volume. And then, obviously, we've seen him, Lomachenko, deal with, rough housing tactics in the past with, Other than that, you have to be able to show up and do exactly what you need. You cannot switch off. You cannot take a moment. You will absolutely get embarrassed. So, even though Richard Comey has a good reach advantage, we've seen that give a few round issues to Loma if they utilize their jab really well and can control distance to some degree. Luke Campbell had some decent moments against Lomachenko because he was pretty good at controlling distance. Nakatani, not so much. He could not keep control of distance, and Loma was just all over him. The biggest thing, though, and this is why I'm going to be especially leaning towards Lomachenko for a late stoppage in this fight, is that even though Comey has a reach advantage, it's a good thing and a bad thing. He likes to throw his hands. He likes to get in there and throw combinations. He likes to let his hands go. And when he does this, he gives up his reach. He doesn't fight at distance all the time when he should. The best example would be against Tio. When he fought Lopez, he had over a 3.5 inch reach advantage. He used zero of it. I mean, literally used zero of it. He fought at mid-range to closer range, and he got tagged by Lopez, and then Lopez stopped him. So that's where I think that's going to get Comey into some serious problems. That's the only time Comey's been stopped, and Loma's never been stopped. So I don't think it's going to be an easy fight. I think you're going to see a lot of people thinking that Lomachenko is going to win by unanimous decision. I think that's probably the safest bet. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that Lomachenko is going to stop him. I think Loma is going to do exactly what he did against Yoshi to Comey, where he came in guns a-blazing, absolutely dominating, and showing you how special he really is. And I think that's what Lomachenko's there to make a statement. He's not there to just win at this point. That portion, everyone knows that Loma's a really good boxer. That portion of like showing off your skills, and downloading information, that had its time and place. He needs to start just like going through guys a little bit. And I think he's going to do that with Comey. I really do. I like Comey too. Richard Comey's a really nice guy. Seems like an excellent boxer. I think Loma, though, is there for blood. And he's trying to basically show, like, hey, remember how Lopez had issues with Nakatani? Watch how I played with him like a toy. And then he's going to go in there with Comey, and he's going to just dominate him and just basically put everyone on lightweight on blast. This is a statement to everyone at lightweight. That's what these fights are. These are big fights to say, hey, guess what? That's cute, Tank, that it took you, that you went to a unanimous decision against Cruz. That's really cute. Hey, Haney, the fact that you went the distance with JoJo, that's great. That's great there, bud. Good for you. You really did a great job there when you had a 6-inch reach advantage, and all you did was jab your entire time, basically. He didn't. I'm being a little bit, But I think that's what Loma's going to try to do. He's going to try to scare some of these young bucks into not wanting to engage with him or fight him. So with that said, let's talk about each lightweight guy that is really major players right now. Kambosos, I'm not going to talk about, even though he's the champion. We can talk about him to a degree, but I think we'll cover a lot of him when we talk about Lopez. That's why. So first, the guy that we have to say the least about, in my opinion, and that's because he just hasn't done anything. No, you want it. You want a jab. Of course, that's totally it. You want to fight on the outside. But the fact you couldn't stop JoJo, it wasn't. I'm just saying that's what haters are going to point out with him. Still pillow-fisted, whatever. People are going to criticize him that even though he dominated, he wasn't, it wasn't exciting, right? You couldn't stop JoJo. You had an easy fight. You made it look so easy, and you can't even stop him. That's the kind of hater talk, people. I don't fall into that camp as much, but, So let's talk about the one guy I don't really have to talk about. That's Ryan Garcia. Ryan, you haven't done anything in a year. I can't really say anything about you because you haven't done anything. So with Ryan, I think the big thing is next year is going to have to be a big year for him. If I'm Eddie Reynoso, if I'm Oscar, I'm the people that are around him that are kind of helping him with his career. I'm telling Ryan, you should think about possibly fighting 3 times next. And you should have that mentality that you're going to fight more than twice next year. The only reason you should fight 2 times next year is if you fight Devin Haney and you have a 2-fight contract and you beat him and then you have to fight him again. That's the only reason you should fight twice. Other than that, you need to fight 3 times next year. You need to go after guys that are going to bolster you again. That you need to fight guys that are going to bring you back up to being in the conversation and being a serious player. He needs to not just get people's leftovers either. Like if he just goes after leftovers from other fighters, like if he went after Jojo Diaz for instance, it's not a bad idea because you can see like, hey, here's what Ryan did compared to Haney. But if I'm him, I'm going after, I mean, if he has the guts, if Tio sticks around, that's the kind of name that you want to try to get. You need to get some serious scalps. You can't sit around. Hell, if they want to do the Linares fight that they talked about forever, not a terrible fight, but it's like you need to put him front and center, get some big names, good names in front of him, and start going after him. So that's my opinion, is that Ryan Garcia needs to have a big year next year. If he lets himself just sit around and be happy with what he's done, he's going to be sadly mistaken. So that's my whole rant with Ryan Garcia. You got one problem with this list, Shrek, and Tank. Yep, thank you, Matt. Next on the list, I want to go to our good friend who just won, and we can have a little chat about it. Tank Davis. Tank Davis is a little concerning for me because size-wise, he's not the biggest guy at lightweight. He has a lot of raw talent, crazy power, and his performance wasn't terrible, especially if he did hurt his hand. It's not shocking that it was a hard fight for him, but it was a little lackluster even before that. Now, early rounds, Cruz took away a lot of rounds, first couple rounds, and then Tank really started to show that he has another gear, and he started to look really good. Like, he started to look really good at a point where he was just dominating Cruz. And I was like, here we go. This is where Tank's gonna just I thought for sure Tank was gonna stop him right around the kind of round I was picking, which is 9, 10, 10th round. You know? So I was a little disappointed that he didn't get the stoppage. Wasn't the most impressive. But as we know, if he did hurt his hand, which it looked like he hurt his hand, it's somewhat understandable. The biggest thing with Tank is consistency. He needs to be consistent. He needs to make weight. He needs to have consistent performances, all that stuff. And I think he will. Other than that, the other problem he has is he doesn't fight anyone cares about. And this is something that people are starting to kind of wake up to and get annoyed by. Fighting Cruz, even though it was a better fight than fighting Rolly, is still not that impressive for a lot of people. And that's nothing against Cruz. Cruz is a good fighter, but he's not who we want Tank to fight. And Mayweather keeps saying we're keeping things in-house, we're going to keep things in-house, all that stuff. That's fine if you want to do that. But all the belts are not there. All the belts, Eddie Hearn has Devin Haney, though they're working together, I should say. They don't have an official contract. But Haney is working a lot of times with Eddie. So there's one belt. And all the other belts over at Top Rank. T.O.'s at Top Rank. Cambosis is with Lou DiBella. Loma is over there at Top Rank. It's like, you need to go outside of your house now. You need to go outside of exactly what you've been doing, Tank. And I think that's the one biggest, like that's the biggest criticism against what's going on with Tank. He's just not fighting anyone that people really care about. That's not everything. I know they're trying to build him up, everything like that. But he's 27 years old now. He just turned 27. When are you going to put, your foot on the gas pedal? It's time. It is time for Tank. He's given up his belts at 130. He's given up his belts at 140, which is good. That tells me he's committed to 135. Let's go. Time to go. And if I'm him, the first person I'm taking, if I'm Tank Davis, the person I would want to fight, probably Ryan Garcia. Because Ryan Garcia is going to be rusty. He hasn't been in the ring. You get first crack at him, there could be some ring rust there. A year outside of the ring, we've seen that all too many times what happens. Not the Mayweather way. No, it's not the Mayweather way. No, props for Cruz for sure. Cruz certainly put up a great fight. So, in my opinion, that's he didn't even need a stoppage. The big thing for me is like, how bad was his hand hurt? If it was hurt, then it's hard to even stop anyone with just one hand. I just want to see him fight someone that we all really get amped up for. And it can't be Rolly Romero. So, that's what I want to see from Tank. I want to see him go outside of PBC. You know? Start expanding a little bit more. Start trying to make a little bit more waves in the lightweight division. You've stopped playing around with different weight classes. You found the weight class you want to be at. That's good. He seems on the straight and narrow. That's good. Heal up, come back, get a big fight. You know? And the talks of him fighting Loma have been rampant. So, no reason to not try to press that fight. I just feel like this whole we're going to keep it in-house thing just got to stop. You got to be able to make deals with other promoters, especially when other promoters have the belts. All the other promoters have the belts. You have a WBA belt that means nothing. So, you know, that's what I want to see from Tank, because I really like Tank a lot. He has out of everyone on this list, Tank has the most power per pound on the entire list, and he has a lot of great ability. So let's see what he does. Next, I think we should talk about former champion and possibly not going to be a lightweight pretty soon. And that's Tio. So, for Lopez, kind of general thoughts on what he should do, where he's at, and everything like that. I think that Tio has a ton of ability. I'm not going to try to sit here and act like the kid doesn't have skills. He does. He absolutely has great skills. I think he underestimated Kambosos. If he had an injury, like you talk about his elbow or pneumonia or any of that stuff, he had any of that stuff, and it was severe enough that he couldn't perform, shouldn't have been in the ring. The same way Lomachenko shouldn't have been in the ring against him if his shoulder was severe enough, which it looked like it. So that's on you. Or the people around you that weren't honest with you. Like, you're not performing at what we think you can do. Let's postpone the fight. Now, it's already been postponed 50 times. I get it. Whatever. But there's now a statement out from Josh Taylor, which is if Tio thought he was going to get the fight beforehand at 140, which was somewhat of a possibility because they're both under Top Rank, he sure as hell is not going to get it now after that loss. Josh Taylor openly said, I'm not giving you that fight. Like, there's no incentive for Josh Taylor, which I've already said, and you guys know how I feel about it. I think Josh Taylor pieces him up. Josh Taylor's pound for pound for a reason. There's very few people that can come up either from lightweight to 140 to beat him or at 140 that can beat him. So, Brooke, dude, I know. So, AK, perfect. Tio needs to be focused and get gym discipline. And I think his dad, although he's not going to leave his dad, I mean, there's got to be some boundaries. There's got to be something. There's got to be something. And his dad, there was talks of his dad being drunk in the corner and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know how much I believe rumors or not. I hope they're not true. Because I think that'd be really sad. So, if he needs to talk to his dad and be like, look, you need to give me honest advice. You need to give me straight directions in the corner because there was confusing instructions, whatever it is. If that's what it takes, if there's issues with his dad or anyone in his camp, he needs to kind of like clean house a little. Now, he's not going to leave his dad. There's just like no way he's going to leave it. You know, I just generally think that he needs to just focus. And that's the best thing. You know? And then, well, he might have to. So, Robert, we talked a little bit about it. There's a conversation about AJ taking step aside money. And so that it turns into Usyk versus Fury. I don't know how likely that is. I think in general that Dillian needs to have that shot, and it's a mandatory, so it's not like you can do anything but. If Dillian's mandatory, that's it. That's it for Fury. He has to fight him. It's not a question of, because he's not going to take the step aside. Just not going to do it. So, and I think that's a fun fight. I think it's a really fun fight. Okay, so next on the list, and Ramirez versus Lopez would be I would love to see that fight. I think it's incredibly dangerous. I think that's incredibly dangerous for Tia. I think it'd be a fantastic fight. Or Regis Prograis. Like, super dangerous fight. But if you wanted to make a statement about 140, at 140, that would be the way to go about it. Take on two guys formerly that had good, solid matches against Josh Taylor. And if you win and you're impressive, get back in that conversation real quick. Dangerous, though. Dangerous as hell. So, next guy on the list we're going to chat about at lightweight is Mr. Devin Haney. So, he needs to get that tonic water from Panama Lewis. Oh, shit. Oh, AK, that's right. Or he needs to get the gloves that Panama Lewis had. So, with Devin Haney, performance-wise against JoJo, he actually was really smart. He boxed, stayed on the outside, he used his abilities. And when he does that, it's really hard to beat him. Like, he's very solid at this weight class. When he moves up, those abilities are going to shrink down a little bit because that reach is not going to be the same, you know? As boring as it, was, Haney definitely dominated. And we've seen Haney do that now twice. Linares, first half of the Linares fight, and now with JoJo, he did it. Now, the criticism against Haney I've seen time and time again is that he's boring and that he's chinny. People are saying that. Like, oh, JoJo hurt him. You know, when JoJo did land, Haney looked hurt or whatever. Regardless, if you can't get on the inside, it's going to be really hard to fight Devin Haney. I think Devin Haney, even though he got the WBC belt because it got handed to him, is looking like he could be a problem for some guys at this weight class. Namely, George Kambosos. And the reason I say that is, Kambosos looked really good against Tio. He had some good counter punching. But I don't see how Kambosos is going to be able to penetrate and just bull rush Devin Haney at that easy. It's going to be a really tough fight. That's a good fight. If you're Devin, that's the fight you want to make. Like, there's no reason to mess around with anyone else at lightweight. If you're Devin, that's the fight. Because it's a total undisputed, even though it should be undisputed. Total undisputed champion at lightweight. And if you're Devin, if you get it, the beauty of that, and this is if you want to make this plan, this is why I would do it. You win all the belts. Let's say he does. Beats Kambosos. He's probably going to have a 2-fight deal. But let's say he does, right? Then you become the automatic mandatory for 140 when you go up. The same way, you know, Holyfield did it. Usyk did it when they went from cruiserweight to heavyweight. You start becoming a mandatory. And that is a interesting fight. I think Josh Taylor, I would probably lean toward. But if you want that smoke, that's the way you're going to get it. That's the fastest route possible. And just to put it out there as a hypothetical, I'm not saying this is going to happen. Just putting it out there is Haney comes undisputed at lightweight. And if he did somehow beat Josh Taylor, you're now undisputed at 140. I mean, that looks pretty good. That's a lot of shiny belts. So I really think that if you're Haney, that's what you got. You got a gun. You got a gun for that complete undisputed. You know? I think that Devin Haney has a lot of talent. He's still so young, 23 years old. And I think he's going to show us a lot of really good skills if he stays smart, if he continues to do all the things he's supposed to be doing. I think there's a lot of future for him. There's a few things that make me concerned, though. And it goes more into the line of what we've said about some of the other young fighters. It's not so much I don't think he has the skills or they won't translate or whatever. Let's see. Oh, I didn't realize George Kambosos was on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's a nice little update. So there's a little moment here that I thought, let me see if I can find the video really quick. Here it is. And this is what makes me most concerned about Devin Haney is I'm seeing certain things that kind of make me think this could lead to something bad. I'm gonna put it up here. You guys see this video at all about Devin Haney after his win? This is what got posted. Is this. So I get it. You're flexing. You know, you just won. You want to show everyone how much money you have. Stacks of cash. All that stuff. And it's great and all. Like I get it. Like that's your vibe. You want to flex on people, you know? And I'm just going to be honest. This has that vibe. That just has that vibe. That if you take your eye off the ball, it's going to go south. Andrade's talking right now about, well, Andrade has a mandatory, so he won't be fighting Charlo next. And he's talking about vacating his belt and going up to super middle. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, I'm worried. I'm worried about, if you're a Haney fan, you should be worried too. Because if it turns into a situation similar to what happened with Tio, where they kind of took their eye off the ball, they feel good about themselves, and then suddenly they get in a fight against someone that wants to make it a real scrap, that could be a problem. That could be a massive problem. And that's going to derail his career for a little bit. Not permanently, but a little bit. So, you want to talk about George? We could talk about it. Because I think we should talk. I'll talk a little bit more. I thought I was going to talk more about him, but I didn't. Lopez. Let's just have a quick chat. Adam Lopez. Not a bad fighter. How many fights has Lopez had at professional? Not that many, right? So let's talk about Kambosos. The Aussie that shook up the world. And quite frankly, deserved. I'm so glad he did not. I'm so glad he did not get robbed. To me, he just fight. So with George Kambosos, you're now the king at lightweight. He says he doesn't want to take any BS fights. He says he wants to take only the best fights. He is going to have to make deals. Lou DiBella is going to have to make deals with other promoters, which I don't think there'll be a problem there. What surprised me with George is going into it, looking at it over his footage, I'm like, I don't see a lot here that's going to be that special. Come fight night, he turned into a pit bull in the ring, and he just went all out, great counter punching, hand speed, just everything. He looked really polished. He clearly was very serious. So I think we're going to see something similar. George is nice. I think he brings a totally different vibe to the lightweight division. The other thing I like about him is he's saying like everything right that he should say. You know, he's talking about Lopez and being like, hey, you know what? Like, rest up, heal up, come back again kind of thing. Talking about other fighters and just being like really a classy individual about it all. And so I like George. I've become kind of a fan of him because of that. I like guys that have a little bit of class to them. You look at Fragile. I mean, it's great. It's great that we have another name in this kind of mix. For George, this is his weight class. He's not going to go up. I don't think he's going to go down. So he's got to look around and pick who he wants next. Devin Haney's a tall order. I think it's a tough fight. If you're up for trying to beat that reach advantage, it's going to be a long night. But if you do beat him, I mean, you immediately become a superstar. There's no rematch with Lopez, so you don't have to worry about that. That's just completely gone. Lopez isn't going to get another shot. There's no reason for him to get. You beat him very fair and square. The other question is, do other mandatories start becoming an issue? And that's where we might see what happens next with George. I agree. Shrek. I think George, the one person that I think that George should stay away from, because George, if he kind of comes forward, has that kind of Mauler style, I could see him giving problems to a lot of different fighters. You know? Oh, there will never be any fights for George in Australia. That idea is just dead. There's no way that you're ever, I don't want to get political at all, but Australia is a mess for anything like that. Completely a mess. You know? There's no way in hell you're going to have any fight for George as a home fight. Just not going to happen. So, if I'm him, I don't know if you'd want to fight in the UK. Probably not. I don't think there's any fighters there for him. Gotta be the US. You know? So, if you're Kambosos, I think right now you're really taking bids on who wants to try to fight next. Gotta be strategic. There's mandatory. There's one guy I'd be the most scared of if I'm Kambosos. And I think we'll find out why when we see him this weekend. And that's Lomachenko. Because with Loma, he's gonna bring something to the table that you can't duplicate it with a sparring partner. George Kambosos can bring in guys that have good reach, good power, good hand speed, all that kind of stuff. You're not gonna bring someone in that has the footwork of Loma. You're just not gonna be able to. You're not gonna be able to duplicate. He's a different fighter. He's a completely different fighter. So that's the biggest. I would say that would be the one person I'd just try to stay away from. If Kambosos wanted to go after him and have that fight, more props to him. That'd be an incredible fight. Loma in general right now, I think is, like I said earlier, trying to make statement fight. Go in there and just embarrass top guys that are in the top 10 for the lightweight division, while he's waiting to see if he can get a crack at what he really wants, which is a belt. He wants to be champion again. He doesn't want to change weight classes. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He just wants to fight top level guys. And that's been his entire career, basically, for the most part. He's had a few easy fights, but almost everything has been top level opponents, very high level fighters. So if you're Loma, the idea of fighting Shakur Stevenson, I don't mind that. You know, I don't mind that idea, but if it's me, it's like I'm going after Devin Haney. I'm absolutely going right after Kambosos would be the number one opponent. I would try to put Lomachenko again and see if he can win all his belts back. Because diddling around the Tank fight, even though fighting Tank would be great for us boxing fans, there's not enough meat on the bone if you're a promoter. I risk from the power of Tank. You got to deal with Mayweather, which I'm sure that's going to suck. Imagine trying to negotiate if you're Bob. By the way, Bob turned 90 years old today. Congratulations, Bob. Turned 90. So, it's just, I just don't see a lot there for Tank versus Loma. So, that's my big thing, you know. At the time, he had some belts. Lopez had some belts. They wanted to see him have undisputed champion. That's what he wanted. And then, obviously, it didn't go his way. Now he's trying to rebuild. I would not be surprised if Lomachenko wins on Saturday and he calls out Devin Haney. Why didn't he fight Haney? He didn't have to fight Haney. So, you know, but Haney didn't have anything. Haney literally didn't have anything. He didn't have a belt. Loma had the belt at the time, if that's what you're talking about. So, you know, I think that's probably the next route, is just going after a title. If you look at where he's rated in terms of the various belts in organizations, ABC belt organizations, he's like number 2, number 3. Like, he's one of the top guys for like everything. He's like one of the number 1 mandatories for like almost everything. He's in within like the top 5 of everything. So if I'm Loma, it's get the win this weekend, demolish Comey, who's a good fighter. Good. See, bro, dude, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Like, if you don't have the belt, I don't want to talk to you. especially because, you know, it's a dangerous fight. You got to make it a little bit more worthwhile. Get the big win this weekend and then transfer over to who you want to fight next. Kambosos would probably be the number 1 target. Is that going to happen? Who knows? I would imagine George Kambosos is going to be just taking the highest bidder. And or if he's smart, picking people he feels like he can beat. Unless he gets mandatories and, you know, someone comes along from one of those ABC belts and wrecks all the fun and just decides, I want my guy to fight. Which is always the nonsense that goes on. So, that's the big thing. The only other thing that's going on that we have for news is Tommy fumbles. You know, Tommy fumbles. Haney versus T.O. Who wins? Haney stays on the outside. I'd probably say Haney. But T.O.'s going to, if it's a healthy T.O., if it was the hungry version of T.O., it'd be a really good. But I'd say Haney's kind of come into his own and realized if he just wants to win, just stay on the outside. Oh, no. Loma versus Tank would be a huge pay-per-view. I mean, huge. You know, I know the WBC had the whole franchise thing. I know. Oh, AKA, no problem, dude. I'm glad that you're here, man. Hey, I try to call people on stuff. Look, no fighter's perfect. Look, I'm a massive Lomachenko fan. Like, I love watching Lomachenko. I've rewatched almost all of his fights. Like, I don't even know how many times. At least half dozen times. Because I just love watching Lomachenko do. He made a dumb decision going into a fight against Lopez with a bum shoulder or a hurt shoulder. That's dumb. Like, that's disrespectful to your opponent. He thought it was going to be easy. So I call him on it. You know? Plain and simple. Now, we do have the Tommy Fumble story going on, and I'm curious what you guys have to say about this. Woodley, with Woodley and everything like that, I'm kind of curious a little bit more about the fight, but not. I'm a little disappointed. I kind of wanted to see Tommy Fumbles versus Jake Paul. You know? That's what I really wanted to see. I wanted to see those two square up because I would have felt like it's good promotion for everybody. Like, no one loses that. The only person that could lose is Tommy if he loses to YouTube and has his name officially changed to Tommy Fumbles. The fact that he is now out of the running and it's Tyrone Woodley. Thank God for Tyrone getting the tattoo, which is ridiculous. It just goes to show that there could be this could be actually a fun fight to a degree. I know it's a freak show, but you know what? When the circus is in town, you go to see the clowns, okay? That's what it is, all right? When the circus is in town, you go see the clowns. You don't pay for the circus, but you watch it. If you catch what I'm saying. Not good for boxing. I just want Paul to lose for what. See, the thing is, Pizza. I'll say this. He's good and he's bad. He's good in the sense that he gets younger people into boxing. There's people in this chat that I know that are regulars now that literally never watched any boxing until Jake Paul or Logan Paul, either one of them. And that's great that there's young people that are getting interested in boxing. We have people that are VIPs in our chat on Twitch that literally didn't know anything about boxing, didn't watch it, and now are like very much on top of it. And they come to every stream and they watch like every fight every week. So there is a plus there. I will say that the events that Jake Paul puts on, there's one element that I don't really appreciate, which is seeing really skilled, like high-level boxers, someone like a Badu Jack or a Regis Prograis. That's right, Trek. A Regis Prograis, kind of like farther down the card. And I'm just like, these guys should really, I mean, even if they're co-mains, they should be promoted. They should be absolutely promoted on these cards a little bit. And I wish they did that more. I wish they kind of made a big deal about it. I think the commentary on the last Jake Paul fight was abysmal. Like, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. And that's where I agree with you, Pizza. Is like, if you want to have fun and you want to like make it like lighthearted, that's fine. I don't mind having Snoop there and stuff like that. I get that. But we got like full grown men like giggling like schoolgirls because like Snoop's swearing and smoking a blunt. And there's like Peter Davidson there for some reason. And it's just like Oscar's like coked out of his mind. And it just like was a total shit show. And that to me, I don't care for. And that's kind of disrespectful. These guys are out there that like guys like a Badu Jack or a Regis Prograis are in the ring to showcase themselves and they're real boxers. And we've got these kind of like clownish commentators going on. Look, if you want to put Snoop there and everything like that and do that whole thing, that's fine. I'm cool with it. I just want some actual commentary though that's somewhat decent. Like a little bit more serious. A little bit more serious. To get like they went from like 0 to 100 and they need to like pull it back. Triller did it, and then Showtime did it. Showtime did it as well. So, because the last Jake Paul fight against Woodley was on Showtime. The concert thing, yeah, all those things, yeah, it's just nonsense. Nonsense. So, I want like quality along with all of it. You know? I'm not asking for like Circus Soleil when I go to the circus. But I do want to see like a trapeze artist or someone that can do something pretty cool that like makes me go, wow, this is really awesome. I'm getting this money for my entertainment. There's something there. It was just a bad look. It was just a bad look by Showtime. Hopefully, I have a feeling that they're going to be a little bit better this next time. Probably not let Oscar, you know, have any microphone in front of him, which I think would be really smart. And if I'm Oscar, I'm staying the hell away from it. Because you looked really bad. Nothing says professional, like seeming hammered or on some kind of drug on live TV. Like, just bad luck. So, yeah, Shrek, right? The best I got right now. Best I got for you. I really think that the Jake Paul fights and stuff like that, like against Woodley, look, you're going in there against an MMA guy that you beat last time, and it's gonna be like that whole MMA versus boxing thing. I love those conversations. Like, they're hilarious to see on like Twitter and stuff like that. It gets people super riled up. And it's hilarious when Jake Paul beats someone in that's former UFC, and like MMA guys just go berserk. And they're like, well, of course, if it was an MMA fight, and it's like, well, yeah, it wasn't MMA. It wasn't. Boxing match. And so it's a fun time overall. It gets really funny how that all plays out. I think against Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury would have been the better fight. Like, I would have wanted to see that more. I think the Furies, both Sean and Tyson, sold the hell out of this fight. And there's one moment that they really are going to pay for what they've kind of just did with everything. And they really set up Tommy to fail in a way, you know? And it's kind of too bad, because it's one of those things where, like, you said something maybe kind of like off the cuff, but then, you know, things kind of came back to just bite you in the ass. It was one of those moments. And I remember thinking, like, oh man, like, he's going to want that back. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Where is it? They throw it in Discord, maybe. I don't know. Basically, there's a screenshot of Tyson Fury saying that Tommy Fury could beat Jake Paul with a broken rib, like a broken hand behind his back, and all these things, and still beat him. And it's just like, wow, okay. Well, this didn't age. This really did not age well, because now your brother literally is hurt. And it's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen now. I don't know. The freak show that is Tommy Fury, and that whole segment is just hilarious. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I'll throw it up on screen. I just found it. Thank God. Would have drove me crazy otherwise. I know, like, it was literally like exactly what happened to him. You're just like, oh, Tyson, that was a bad idea. Like, that was a bad idea to say that. And it's hard because he said it and you can't take it back. Turn up with a broken rib, a broken left hand, two left feet, and with the flu, which is hilarious because apparently Tommy has like a, I don't know, some kind of like bacterial thing or something like that. And it's just like literally the things that you said your brother could show up with. He could have showed up to the fight with, and he pulled out instead. So that was kind of the kind of comical side of things. Tyson Fury being Tyson Fury, of course. You know, saying things and then immediately thinking, you shouldn't have said that. Maybe you should have just not said anything at all. But hey, he wanted to promote the fight. He promoted the fight way better than Tommy did. Like, way better than Tommy did. So, you know, I see where he was going with it. Tyson pounded. I saw that. I saw the pounding of that. That was bad. That was really bad. Because now it looks even worse. In hindsight, it's like, dude, you went hard with that medicine ball. You went really hard with that medicine ball, and it's pretty obvious that you might have damaged his ribs a little bit with that. All right, so guys, no stream on Friday. I'm gonna be out in the middle of the woods. We will be live for Lomachenko, so we'll definitely be doing that. And we'll be having some conversations in Discord as always. So, you know, always be in the Discord, checking that out. Tell me what you think. And with that said, go say hi to my buddy Happy.